Have you ever noticed that some men seem to pull women toward them effortlessly, without chasing, without trying too hard, without ever performing? You see it in older men, confident, grounded, magnetic, and it leaves younger men wondering, what is their secret? The truth is far simpler than you think, yet it's something most men will never notice because it's not about looks, money, or status. It's about psychology, subtle language, and energy. Today, I'm going to reveal the two words older men use that make women think about them constantly, the words that trigger deep attraction without manipulation, and why 97% of men completely miss this. Most men operate on surface-level attraction. They believe that effort, attention, or trying to impress is the path to desire. They overtext, over-explain, or overcompensate for perceived inadequacies, thinking that showing interest will make a woman like them. But the truth is the opposite. Attraction is invisible. It lives in subtle emotional cues, psychological triggers, and subconscious loops that women cannot resist, but that men rarely understand. And the two words I'm going to reveal are not tricks. They are keys that tap into female psychology at a level most men never reach. Older men, those who have mastered attraction over time, understand something critical. Women are not thinking consciously about who is good enough in terms of effort. They are thinking subconsciously about emotional resonance, security, and energy alignment. When a man speaks or acts in a way that triggers these psychological patterns, women think about him repeatedly, long after the interaction ends. Most younger men never see this because they focus on the wrong signals, how much she laughs, how often she texts, or whether she appears interested on the surface. But older men know that attention is cheap, mental and emotional imprinting is rare. Here's the core of it. Women are constantly evaluating men for emotional safety, leadership, and depth. They are subconsciously asking, can this man hold presence under pressure? Does he make me feel alive without demanding it? Does he make me think, feel, and want to know more? The older men who succeed aren't clever. They simply communicate in ways that tick these subconscious boxes. Their words carry weight because they are rooted in confidence, alignment, and psychological precision. Let's dissect why 97% of men fail at this. They over-explain themselves, they chase validation, and they operate from a place of need. Their words are loud, obvious, and transactional. Do you like me? Are you free tonight? I care about you. Don't you care about me? These words communicate neediness, insecurity, and lack of internal value, which women intuitively detect. In contrast, older men use brevity, precision, and psychologically resonant language. Their words are loaded not with effort, but with emotional cues that activate curiosity, desire, and subconscious engagement. The first word older men use is deceptively simple, but its effect is profound. It communicates confidence, presence, and subtle intrigue without requiring explanation. Most men fail because they try to say too much. They think attraction comes from showing value, but in reality, attraction comes from sparking curiosity and mental loops in her mind. A single, carefully chosen word can do what paragraphs of effort cannot. It leaves a trace in her subconscious that she revisits again and again. Why does this word work? Because women's brains are wired to notice alignment and emotional resonance. When a man speaks from a place of internal certainty, without need, his words carry a weight that resonates on an unconscious level. Women may not consciously recognize why they are thinking about him, but every interaction leaves a subtle imprint. The word itself triggers thought patterns that replay automatically in her mind. Most men never realize that attraction is not verbal, it's psychological. The second word is equally powerful, but it works differently. While the first word triggers curiosity and mental engagement, the second word creates emotional resonance. It taps into feelings women often seek subconsciously: safety, excitement, validation, or acknowledgement of their uniqueness. Delivered correctly, it creates a mental and emotional loop. She remembers how she felt, not just what you said. She starts to anticipate your presence, reflect on your interactions, and even daydream about you without conscious effort. Older men understand the subtle interplay of these two words. One engages the mind, the other touches the heart. Together, they create a magnetic psychological pull that doesn't rely on effort, status, or constant attention. The secret is that these words are simple but layered. They are embedded with intent, timing, and energy. Most men fail because they focus solely on what they say, not how their presence amplifies meaning. Another important factor is delivery. These words must come from a place of internal alignment, calm confidence, and emotional sovereignty. If you use them with hesitation, neediness, or over-explanation, they lose their effect entirely. Older men succeed because they understand that energy amplifies words, and presence is the vehicle through which psychological triggers are activated. The words alone do not create attraction. They are carriers of energy. Let's pause for a moment. Think about your interactions with women. Do you speak from alignment, confidence, and clarity, or do you chase, over-explain, and try to impress? The difference is not just noticeable, it is felt subconsciously. Women remember men who convey stability, subtle intrigue, and emotional resonance. That's why some men become unforgettable, while others vanish from memory despite effort, humor, or attention. Finally, it's critical to understand why timing and context matter. These words are not magic. They are strategic psychological tools. Delivered at the right moment, during conversation, in text, or in subtle interaction, they spark subconscious engagement. Used carelessly, they fail. But in the hands of someone who understands female psychology, they create mental loops that make her think about you long after you've left. Now let's dive into the first word, the one older men use that instantly triggers curiosity and mental engagement in women. This is the word that most men overlook completely, thinking attraction is built through effort, gifts, or constant attention. But the reality is far more subtle and powerful. This word works because it sparks a psychological ripple. It engages her subconscious mind and makes her wonder, reflect, and replay your interactions without conscious effort. Think about how most men communicate. They flood women with explanations, messages, and over-the-top gestures, all trying to get validation. They believe that attention equals attraction, but women aren't drawn to effort. They're drawn to impact. That impact comes from creating something in her mind she can't immediately label, something that sticks long after the conversation ends. The first word older men use achieves exactly that. It's not about cleverness or charm, it's about subtlety, timing, and emotional resonance. Here's the psychological mechanics behind it. When you use this word correctly, you trigger a mental loop in her brain. Women start to process you unconsciously, evaluating your energy, presence, and alignment. She may not even consciously notice the word itself, but her mind attaches significance to it because it communicates internal certainty and value. Most men fail because they try to impress. Older men succeed because they embody presence, and the word becomes a vessel for that presence. To give you an example without revealing the word itself yet, imagine a man saying something concise, deliberate, and aligned with his values without chasing attention. It's a single, intentional word embedded with confidence. She hears it, her mind registers it, and she doesn't stop thinking about it. She may replay it while doing something else, feel a subtle spark, or reflect on your energy without realizing why. That's the power of this first word. Plant the seed of subconscious attraction. Older men use this word naturally because it aligns with their life experience and emotional alignment. They don't overthink it, they speak from a place of grounded presence. Most younger men overcomplicate communication because they rely on effort rather than energy. This is why older men can be effortlessly magnetic. They communicate with a psychological precision that triggers desire without trying. Timing amplifies the effect. Delivered in the right moment, during a meaningful conversation, when she's emotionally receptive, or subtly in a text, it sparks mental loops that make her think about you repeatedly. The more she processes it subconsciously, the stronger the pull. That is why women often return to older men in their thoughts, even if the interaction was brief. It's invisible psychology at work, and most men don't understand it because they focus only on attention and effort. Here's a deeper insight. The first word isn't about overt charm, it's about creating a subtle tension between curiosity and emotional resonance. Her subconscious notices alignment and stability, and it rewards that recognition with mental engagement. Women love mystery, but not chaos. They respond to emotional clarity packaged in brevity. That's why this word, simple as it is, has far more impact than pages of text, constant messaging, or attempts to impress. Now consider her mental process. After hearing this word, she begins to evaluate you silently. Who is this man? Why does he feel different? Why do I keep thinking about him? This is the psychological effect most men never see. She is thinking about you, analyzing your energy and presence subconsciously. And the first word is the trigger. It plants the idea that you are emotionally distinct and compelling without overt effort. Most men fail because they interpret hesitation or lack of immediate response as rejection. Older men know that the subconscious is processing, looping, and reflecting on impact long before the conscious mind catches up. The first word starts the process. It's subtle, invisible, and psychologically powerful, creating intrigue without chasing. The first word also pairs perfectly with body language, tone, and presence. A confident stance, a slight pause before speaking, a grounded tone, these amplify the effect. It's not the word alone, it's the energy and alignment behind it that imprints in her mind. Women are wired to detect authenticity, and this word signals it instantly. Now it's time to reveal the second word, the one older men use that creates deep emotional resonance and keeps a woman thinking about you long after you've walked away. If the first word sparked curiosity and mental loops, this second word touches her heart, her subconscious desires, and the emotional part of her brain that most men never reach. Understanding this is where attraction shifts from surface-level interest to lasting magnetic engagement. Most men fail here because they focus solely on what a woman says, how often she responds, or whether she laughs at their jokes. They think attraction is transactional. I text, she replies, I compliment, she smiles. But female psychology doesn't work like that. True attraction is invisible. It exists in emotional resonance, subtle validation, and the subconscious feeling of being understood and valued. The second word older men use speaks directly to this invisible space. It doesn't need explanation, justification, or performance. It works because it aligns with her internal emotional map. Here's how it functions psychologically. The second word triggers a sense of emotional safety and intrigue simultaneously. Women crave both, the excitement of a man who is distinct, confident, and magnetic, combined with the reassurance that their emotional energy won't be wasted or mishandled. When used correctly, this word communicates both at once. It signals that you are someone who can hold presence, handle emotional intensity, and remain grounded, all without trying too hard. Older men use it naturally because it's embedded in their presence and experience. They don't have to overthink, overtext, or overcompensate. They speak it casually, subtly, and with alignment. Younger men fail because they try to manufacture connection or chase attention. They don't understand that attraction isn't earned, it's triggered psychologically. The second word activates desire without effort. It leaves an emotional imprint that women revisit unconsciously, creating loops of thought and reflection about you. Let me illustrate without giving away the exact word itself. Imagine a conversation where a man acknowledges something unique about her presence, perspective, or energy, but does so with calm confidence, without over-explaining. That single word conveys understanding, subtle admiration, and recognition of her emotional worth. She may laugh, nod, or smile, but the real effect happens after the interaction. Her mind replays it, her heart feels the impact, and she starts thinking about you repeatedly. This is the invisible mechanism that most men miss entirely. The key is not in the literal meaning of the word, but in timing, energy, and delivery. Older men pair it with steady presence, aligned body language, and emotional sovereignty. The combination creates a psychological anchor in her mind, a subtle, compelling reason to reflect on you, anticipate your presence, and feel intrigued even when you're not around. Most men miss this because they focus on being interesting or fun, but attraction is less about entertainment and more about emotional impact and subconscious resonance. Here's the fascinating part. The first word triggers thought, the second word triggers feeling. Together, they create mental loops and emotional loops simultaneously. She thinks about you and she feels drawn to you emotionally. She may try to rationalize it. I'm not sure why I keep thinking about him. But the subconscious pull is undeniable. That's why some men leave lasting impressions effortlessly, while others, despite effort, attention, or charm, fade into memory. Timing is critical here. Dropped casually in conversation, text, or subtle interaction, the second word creates a ripple effect. It doesn't demand immediate reaction, it works unconsciously. Women begin to replay it mentally, associate it with the positive energy you exude, and feel a pull toward your presence without conscious effort. Most men never see this because they are too busy trying to force attraction instead of allowing it to emerge naturally through psychological resonance. Another important layer is emotional contrast. Women are drawn to men who are both emotionally present and subtly unpredictable. The second word achieves this. It signals that you are emotionally aligned, confident, and aware, but not dependent on her reaction. This creates a tension that women are wired to respond to. It sparks intrigue, curiosity, and desire while maintaining emotional safety. Most men fail because they either cling, over-explain, or chase validation, which collapses this delicate balance. Delivery matters immensely. If the word is used with hesitation, neediness, or insecurity, its power disappears. Older men succeed because they embody the energy behind the word. They don't overthink it. They simply speak it from alignment, confidence, and emotional sovereignty. That combination imprints deeply, creating mental and emotional engagement that keeps a woman thinking about them for days, weeks, or even months. Let's summarize the psychological impact. The first word engages her mind, creates curiosity, and sparks reflection. The second word engages her heart, creates emotional resonance, and sparks subconscious attraction. Together, they create a complete magnetic pull that most men are incapable of achieving. The women aren't just interested, they're mentally and emotionally engaged, often without realizing why. Now it's time to put everything together, the two words, the psychology and the energy, into a system that allows you to attract and embed yourself in her mind effortlessly. This is where most men fail and where older men shine. It's not about manipulation or tricks. It's about aligning your words, energy, and presence with female psychology so that she naturally thinks about you constantly without realizing why. First, understand the rhythm of engagement. Women are not attracted to men who overwhelm or chase, but to men who create emotional loops of curiosity and resonance. The first word sparks thought, the second sparks feeling. When used strategically in conversation, brief interactions, or even text, they create subconscious mental loops that replay over and over in her mind. The key is timing and subtlety. Drop these words naturally, without overemphasis, hesitation, or need. Let her mind do the work. She will process it and return to it without pressure. Energy is critical. You cannot rely solely on the words themselves. They are carriers of your emotional presence. Older men succeed because they speak these words from a place of alignment, calm confidence, and internal certainty. They do not over-explain or justify. They do not chase. They maintain emotional sovereignty, and their presence amplifies the power of their words. When she senses your stability and subtle intrigue, her mind connects the dots subconsciously, reinforcing attraction and desire. Another subtle but vital strategy is controlled emotional contrast. Don't be predictable. Don't be constantly available. Instead, alternate between moments of connection and brief emotional distance. When she feels the pull of your presence, let her process it internally. This tension triggers curiosity and desire while maintaining safety. Women are naturally drawn to men who create engagement without pressure, and older men do this intuitively. Most younger men ruin attraction by being reactive. They chase, plead, or overinvest too soon. You want to stay calm, aligned, and subtly intriguing. Body language and tone matter equally as much as the words themselves. Maintain confident posture, slow and deliberate speech, and calm eye contact. Subtle gestures, a brief touch on the arm, or mirroring her energy lightly creates nonverbal cues that reinforce attraction. Women are wired to detect authenticity and emotional stability through nonverbal behavior. When these cues align with your two words, the psychological pull multiplies exponentially. Timing is everything. Deploy the words at moments that feel natural. During meaningful conversation, when she is reflecting emotionally, or even subtly in written communication. The power is in spacing and repetition. Repeating them too often or with neediness reduces impact. Used sparingly, they embed in her subconscious and keep her thinking about you without effort on your part. Most men fail because they try to force attention. Older men succeed because they create mental and emotional hooks that replay automatically. Another layer is subtle recognition of her uniqueness. The second word creates emotional resonance, but it works best when paired with perceptive awareness. Acknowledging her individuality without overpraising or seeking approval signals emotional intelligence and depth. Women instinctively notice men who see them clearly, without pressure, and this enhances attraction while simultaneously activating the protective fear that draws them closer. The final step is consistent alignment. Your energy, words, and presence must remain steady across interactions. Women subconsciously evaluate patterns, and inconsistency triggers fear and doubt. Older men understand this. They maintain their energy, stay emotionally grounded, and communicate with precision. The two words, when consistently paired with this energy, create an invisible gravitational pull. She thinks about you repeatedly because her subconscious associates your presence with clarity, intrigue, and emotional resonance. So ask yourself, are you using your words, energy, and timing strategically, or are you leaving attraction to chance? Comment below with your honest answer. And if this strategy opened your eyes, like the video, subscribe, and share it with a friend who needs to understand the invisible psychology older men use to make women think about them constantly. Remember this, the two words alone are not magic, they are tools. Magic comes from alignment, confident energy, emotional resonance, subtle intrigue, and the patience to let her subconscious do the work. Use these principles correctly, and you won't just attract women, you'll create lasting, magnetic impressions that keep her thinking about you long after the interaction ends.